Welcome to Getting Real with Real Estate with Danielle Kempf and Jim Kempf, St. Louis's favorite father-daughter real estate team. Your source of real estate information in the greater St. Louis area.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. It's our first podcast of the new year.
Happy New Year to
Happy
everybody.
New Year, everybody.
Yeah, this is the first time we've been in the booth.
It's been a hot second.
Yep.
But you know what? We're back on the boat, and we're going to do this.
Back in the saddle. That sounds good.
All right.
All right, before we get going, though, we need to have a good joke.
The first
to
joke
start
of the
us off.
year.
First joke of the new year better be a good one. Let's
Okay.
hear it.
It's kind of cheesy. What's the best side of the house to put the porch on?
The best side of the house, put the porch on. I would want to have it on the east side of the house where I could go out in the morning and have a cup of coffee and watch the sun.
You're close. It's a little more vague than that. You put the porch on the outside of the house.
The outside.
The outside of the house is the answer that I got. I really hope that's common knowledge for everybody listening out there. If you didn't know that.
I'm going to go put a porch in my living room tonight. That's a terrible joke. But anyway.
Anyway, we digress. All right, so today's topic, what are we going to talk about?
Today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of buying a house as is. The old as is.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you think of first when I say a property is sold as is? What comes to mind?
I think of an investment property, just
Okay.
because those are typically sold as is, and that's what I'm looking for.
Like a rental house, you mean? Or
Yeah, like
something?
rental, either current rental or used to be a rental. You always see those being sold, and it's current, air quote, as is condition.
Okay.
That's why I ixnayed you. It's because it's current.
Because we don't want
air
to say
quote,
the word as is. Because as is.
Well, here, what do you hear? What do you think?
Right. I tend to more think of foreclosures or kind of junker houses, right? Something that needs to be gutted and rehabbed.
Oh.
That's what I typically think of when I hear.
So you think of something that needs to be gutted and rehabbed. I think of something that has had people living in it relatively recently. So, as is.
So what the hell does it mean, right? That's the kicker. What you said, the current condition. That's really what it really means, folks, and that's what we always make sure that we
write on our contracts.
Yeah, is the home is being sold in its current condition. Right?
I'll put air quotes in between current and condition of as is. So it's current, air quote, as is condition, just because buyers vaguely know what that means for the most part.
But as we just demonstrated, people have different opinions of what that really means.
I like the quality of it.
Yeah, so that's one thing to kind of keep in mind in the back of your head.
Yeah,
and
but go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the other thing really that it means too is that the seller is telling you right up front they're not going to do any repairs, and they're not
give
gonna,
any credits.
No
repairs,
right?
no credits.
Repairs, right? And won't provide for any inspections like municipal inspections that are commonly required, at least in our area. We find that in a large percentage of the sales.
Yeah.
You have to have a municipal or what's considered an occupancy inspection.
Yep.
Not everywhere, but
most places.
So yeah, seller's just saying, hey, I'll sell you the house, but I'm not doing any of that stuff. So you know up front, right, that's it is what it is.
You get it is what it is. Yeah.
Right. You get what you get when you buy the place.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, just kind of, be careful of what you're kind of try to define what you're talking about when you say that as is I guess my recommendation to folks, right?
I would agree with that because it can be as easy from, chipping paint, just like some cosmetic work that needs to be done, to aging appliances, maybe aging roof, maybe up to like the extremes of roof leaks or like mold in the house that they don't want to deal with. So you get homes being sold in its current condition in all shapes.
Well, all different types, and for a lot of different reasons. I think you kind of mentioned one. You said to me about inherited houses and stuff, right? Maybe, and those could just be, if mom and dad lived in the house for 30 years,
and you moved out when you were 19.
And the house hasn't had any real updates or anything. It's going to be probably not up to current codes.
Oh,
so that's one thing that is, I think, very typical, right? When you get a house like that, because there can be. Literally, sometimes you can spend thousands of dollars getting a house up to current codes, right? If it needs an occupancy inspection.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the reasons too that some people do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, I kind of think I go back to thinking of like foreclosures and things of that nature. That's what I always that's what my mind goes to on as is.
See, we haven't had many foreclosures since 2020, so I don't really know the world of
Yeah.
foreclosures
Yeah, true enough.
anymore. Or I just never have.
Yep, yeah, that's true. So, we talked about a little bit on why maybe some reasons sellers will. You mentioned investment property, though, so,
Yeah.
so talk about that a little bit, especially like if you have a rental property. Why would a seller, sell something as is on a rental property? What do you think?
So, from what I understand, the landlord, they're the ones who own it. They're not in it. Maybe we've done plenty of podcasts where we always recommend to all of our landlords out there to go visit the home maybe once a month type thing, even if it's just to change an air filter, just get in it. But your tenants are the ones who are living in it. They really know all the quirks of the house. You, the landlord, don't really know all the quirks. You don't live in it. You just, when something goes wrong, your tenant calls you, you go fix it. You know the basics of it, but you don't, when it rains in just the right way, do you get water in the basement? What corner in the basement? Landlords don't always know that information. So they're just not privy, I guess, sometimes to all like the inner workings of the house, so they sell it as is.
Yeah, they may not know a lot about it. That's a very good point. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So sometimes too is just landlords don't want. Well, I mean, we talk about like showing on properties like that. Sometimes you can't go see them.
No,
either,
a lot of the
and
times when you're buying investment properties or like rentals where someone's in it,
Yeah.
you buy those you write a contract sight unseen,
Correct.
and you have a contingency in there that it's contingent on viewing, and if it looks good, it looks good. But
Right.
like kind of what you're saying, tenants sometimes don't know that a building's being sold.
Yeah,
So like you
landlords don't wanna
can't
tell them
go
that.
in and do like a building inspection all the time.
Right, you got it. That takes a little bit of coordination to get all that done.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, we digress. So like why would someone buy, maybe we're not talking investment properties, maybe just like
But just an
mom's
as-is
house.
house.
Yeah, why would someone buy a house and it
Well,
air quote as is?
yeah, I think it's most cases they're going to be a little cheaper, right?
Because they need work.
At least that's the presumption. I mean, I would figure if I'm buying a house as is,
Yeah.
it better be cheaper than the one next door that's not as is, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So I mean, typically you're looking at hoping at least, right, that you're going to save some money on the price of the house
Yeah.
because you might be, especially like for handy people,
yeah.
right? I mean that's and I usually say younger because I did this exact same thing was buy the first house that your mom and I bought. We bought it as is, and we were young and we did a lot of work to it. And so you try to build that sweat equity. So
Yeah.
a lot of times with a house that's as is or in its current condition, you do have some opportunities there.
To build some equity into it.
Yeah, for the reasons you were just talking about. Like if it is dated or whatever, you do some updates and makes it worth more money down the road.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases you can buy those houses maybe a little quicker because there's not so many,
Stipulations.
Yeah, I mean it's usually
Mostly they're cash.
in a lot of cases, people are paying cash for them, so you don't have lenders involved. You don't have to go through all that stuff with appraisals and all that. That's one potential savings. But I don't know. It's just usually it's kind of like it is what it is, and come in if you want to buy it, you buy it.
Well, yeah, because also in that you don't have like your inspection periods in there too.
Yeah.
So like you don't have roughly 20 days for inspections and then going back and forth on inspections. All that's cut on out.
Yeah, the negotiating time is usually a little
There's
bit
not
shorter.
much more negotiating.
because
There's a lot less negotiating.
I think so because it's a lot of times the price is what the price is in most cases. At least that's what seller, from a seller's perspective, they're not really gonna.
They're not
gonna
nickel and dime you over a couple grand on price.
Yep. And then I think so here I think one thing that's really, really important for a buyer, if you're looking at it as his property, is make sure that the real estate agent that you're using has some experience in being able to go through that house with you and look over that house really good because you might not get an inspection. We recommend our clients get inspections anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
They know that they can't ask for repairs, right? But you
want to know what's going on in the house.
Yeah, it's smart to have that done. And I mean, unless somebody's bought a lot of houses and has experience, we're gonna pretty much
always push.
I won't say make them, but we're gonna kind of make them get an inspection, for lack of better.
I mean,
way
even
of
if
saying
it may, again, like you're saying, the experienced flipper,
Yeah.
they might just do a sewer lateral inspection because you don't know what's happening underneath the pipes. Like that's just something we will never be able to see or know during a showing.
Right.
So, I mean, at minimum, even if it's that.
Yeah, you should always do that. I think that's a great idea. What about competition? Do you think competition is less on as-is properties?
Depends on what kind. Depends on what we're talking about. Like, a duplex or 4-family off Hampton or maybe in, like, Clayton, those might be sold as is. Those are going to be hot homes. If we're talking about mom's house in Afton or grandma's house in Afton, you're still probably going to get good traction, but you're not going to...
Yeah, I think it depends.
I think it depends on the house. And, depends on the quality, too. I mean, what the house
depends
is.
on the shape. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It depends on how bad it might be, I guess, right? A lot of people, though, there's a lot of buyers who don't want to look at an ad because they
I don't
can't.
blame them.
I mean,
well, like a first-time home buyer, I don't think I would I wouldn't usually recommend a as-is home for a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because a lot of people aren't very handy. That's, I think, the message is what I'm trying to say.
Just get a handy dad.
Some people can't screw in a light bulb. I mean, so you don't want to buy an as-is house. A lot of people just want, well,
But I think
Give me that all done house ready to go, and all I want to do is move my furniture in.
Mm-hmm.
So those people are out if it's an as-is house, in my opinion, right?
Usually.
So I think you
do, yeah. I mean, you
in some cases
not lose some buyers, but your buyer pool dwindles down.
I think it does a little bit.
Yeah.
It does a little bit, but there are plenty of investor type
and
folks out there who will buy that stuff.
Oh,
so,
absolutely, yeah.
And then I think the other part is from a buyer's perspective, you have to buy that house a little bit cheaper, going back to that pricing, because you're putting money in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you got to kind of, you make that plan. And I think most sellers understand they kind of got a discount. If it needs a new kitchen, right, to
then you have
make
to
it livable, you kind of
have to discount
the price of that house to kind of make up for that.
Completely agree.
Can't have your cake and eat it too, right, as a seller.
Yeah, fair.
Fair. But, okay.
So that's kind of why. So what are some drawbacks? So, kind of what we were talking about, you don't always have that inspection period when you're buying a home in its current condition. So we still always recommend an inspection period, even on like a special sale contract, which is what you write on for air quote as-is homes. You can add in your inspection period back into that. But the standard contract, you do not have your 10 days for inspections in there.
Right. Still important to get them because you can run into, like you said, some major kind of problems. But, sometimes that's, again, sometimes you take that risk.
Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, some people are willing to take that risk as well. And more power to them. Like I said, I've done it before. Yeah. It's not recommended necessarily, but...
it's not a bad option.
Well, it really depends on, to me, like, if you have a property that people are living in and, the systems are working and all that stuff, that they are, or you can tell, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe you don't have too many big hidden problems. But that being said, it can be costly. But again, I think that goes back to, that's why you need to make sure you're getting that property at a little bit of a discount. So you can kind of plan on that. If you do have an unforeseen situation, you're protected a little bit there.
Yeah, agreed.
So again, it goes back to kind of protecting yourself.
Yeah.
And then the financing part of it can be challenging.
Sometimes that can be tricky.
That can be, like a lot of as-is homes won't qualify for like an FHA or VA loan because of they do have, and we've talked about this before, is they do have extra inspections that they do. That will eliminate that house from contention to be able to get a loan.
Yeah, because for like FHA and VA, they have to be like, they have to be livable. They have to be safe. They have to be livable.
There's some
proper
minimum
heating
guidelines.
and cooling, I think, is one of them too. All appliances have to be on.
Yep.
But even with like a conventional, sometimes you can do a conventional loan with them. But I think, don't quote me on this, I think sometimes you have to have like occupancy and move in by like 2-3 months, isn't it usually like 60 days or something like that you have to be moving in by?
That's a good question.
We might need to bring in a lender for that one.
Yeah, I would maybe defer to a lender on that one, but I think that can happen sometimes. You're right. Yeah. Other kind of issues that you might bump into on an as-is sale, I think a lot of your sellers are not going to be very flexible on things, like especially the price. and most of
even
them,
if you do inspections, they're not
don't
going to
come
play
ba-
ball
yeah,
with
don't
you
come
if you
back
come
and
back.
ask.
No.
Yeah, because usually they're going to tell you to go pound sand, but that's just kind of the way it is.
Nice expression.
You haven't heard that before?
No, I hadn't heard that one
Okay.
before.
All right. Well, what so what other
right.
tips, Danielle? I
Some
mean, what kind
tips?
of yeah, if
Well, like you said,
if
have a good
somebody's
real
out there-
estate agent. Have a good real estate agent who can help you look at the houses. If you see something maybe suspect while you're previewing a house, most agents, I would say, we're definitely not afraid to pick up the phone and call the listing agent and ask questions. They might know it, they might not know it. If they don't know it, they can always reach out to their seller and just get a little bit of extra clarification from those.
Yep.
So just, ask the questions that need to be. If you see something that looks maybe a little funky, or you just, you're just walking
it
through.
never
you're not
hurts
sure.
to ask.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's part of our job. We do, like you said, we do that all the time.
We do that all the time. And I'll keep going on with that, too. I don't know. How often would you say a seller selling in its current condition provides a seller's disclosure?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking of that next. Not a lot of cases
Not
they
often.
don't. Yeah, a lot of cases the seller will not fill out a disclosure.
Or they might just X through every single page of it, and then in the remarks it says, like, home was an investment property or rental property or family property. Seller has never lived there, doesn't know anything. And so then it's just kind of...
Yeah, so the disclosure you might get, you may or may not get, is yeah, in a lot of cases it's going to be pretty minimal, right? And some, again, I think it goes back to sort of asking those questions. But if you have any kind of dialogue with the owner, you want to ask them about stuff that would be on the disclosure and see what their answers are and kind of.
We can figure...
You get a good feeling like they're telling you the truth is what I mean, seriously, I just kind of, if you're actually able to talk to the owner, in some cases you are because they're not represented, whatever.
Okay.
But on those disclosures, yeah, you're right. If somebody don't live there, sometimes these investors are out-of-state folks, and they don't know really nothing about the place. So it's up to you as a buyer to satisfy yourself with the property. So just, again, make sure, like you said, ask questions, have your agent ask the questions. You may not get the answers, but you got to at least try. And,
if you can
protect
do an
yourself.
inspection, if you can get an inspection period in there, we highly recommend it.
Yeah, know what? One of the things, we were talking about things to put on the contract and stuff like that. You can, Danielle mentioned putting you can put an inspection rider on an as-is contract, which is fine. Or you can just, if your agent needs to know what kind of verbiage to put maybe in special agreements, to give the buyer the right to do the inspections, right? So that you can get in there.
You can just have that access.
Have a professional go in there.
Because we're not professionals, but we've been on more than a handful of building inspections and occupancy inspections. We kind of know what to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff, if it's visible, it's visible. But it's the hidden defects that you're really...
That's the
one you really want to protect yourself on.
Or like how, sometimes we can get an age off like the HVAC or the water heater system. But if they're older, again, it might not work in a lot of situations where you can ask the seller to provide a home warranty. But you, the buyer, you can always buy a home warranty after closing.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
just,
too.
If you know... Hey, I have a hot water heater from 1983 and the roof's 21 years old, but there's not leaking yet. You can always get home warranties to kind of cover everything that you're concerned about too.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all.
But you do have to kind of, there's stipulations with all that. You have to get them checked out first before they'll cover it.
Check with your agent on that stuff.
Yeah.
They may have to reach out to their warranty representatives to get some questions answered there. Because just to find out what could and couldn't be covered.
Yeah.
So just be careful with those kind of purchases.
But for the right buyer, they can be a great option.
Oh,
like Jim was saying,
100%.
you can build some equity just sweat equity.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I mean, if you can find a house that needs cosmetic work or something like that, and you're capable of doing that kind of work, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
More power to you. That's great.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so I guess we'll kind of wrap it up, right?
Yeah.
If if you're in the market and that an as-is property, or you're thinking foreclosure, investment property, those kind of things that sounds like it might be interesting for you and something you might want to talk about, man, we'd love to just have a chat and see how that could work out for you and see how we could help you in your search for a property.
And I'll do the flip side of that. If you have a property that you're like, do I sell it as is? Do I sell it regularly? If you're just not even sure about the condition, should I sell as is because of this or fix it or whatnot? We're more than happy to have a conversation with you. We'll come stop by, take a look at the house, and kind of give you our 2 cents about which way we think would be better for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. So we can kind of help you through, kind of give you a general idea of what municipalities look for when they do inspections. So if we can ever help you with that stuff, man, we're in.
Yep.
Love to do it. Give us a ring.
Give us a call anytime.
Okay.
Thanks, folks. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.
You've been listening to Getting Real with Real Estate with the Kempf team. Have questions about real estate or something you'd like to discuss? Contact the Kempf team at 314-336-1926 or visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Kempf team. Don't want to miss any episodes? Follow us on your favorite podcast app or YouTube. The Kempf team. Real, honest real estate.